So good evening, everyone. Amitabha. Begin with the Dharma request. 欢迎大家，我们先开始来请法。So might everyone please place your palms together as we invite the presence of the triple jewel. 我们现在来请三宝来护持加倍。
恭请大德身体，为此法会及一切众生，其转妙法文，教导我们如何了生脱失。 有苦得乐，苏中无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Okay, so please repeat after me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samyak sambuddhoche.无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. So all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, all Dharma Masters and good and wise friends, both present and online, Amitabha. Welcome to tonight's Sutra lecture. We're going to investigate the Infinite Life Sutra, which describes Amitabha Buddha's past cultivation and also a description of the Pure Land. And right now we're in the section where it's describing the inhabitants in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, the Bodhisattvas and their amazing qualities. But before we begin the kind of investigation and looking into these Bodhisattvas, we'll recite the Buddha's name. So 欢迎大家，我们今天会继续研究无量寿经。我们在研究阿弥陀佛怎么成为阿弥陀佛。跟在阿弥陀佛的极乐世界是怎么一回事？我们去理解菩萨在极乐世界是就说道德啊、神通啊、这个能力啊等等啊，是怎么一回事？所以我们是非常可以说非常难得可以去真正理解极乐世界是怎么样的。但我们先开始来念佛请阿弥陀佛到心中。So we begin with reciting the Buddha's name, inviting the Buddhas in our heart. Namo Amitabha Namo Amitabha
好，可以了。我们诸佛菩萨、仙公上人，以及在座的法师，还有我们这个 BBM 这里的佛友，还有我们线上的佛友，大家晚安。
So Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Master, and all good and wise friends here in Berkeley and also online. Good evening, everyone.
我们晚上呢，我们来继续研究《佛说无量寿经》，然后呢，我们今天的经文是在116页，英文在117页。那我们等一下会念中文一遍，英文一遍。
So read page 116 in the Sutra text and 117.
好，我们念经文的时候，大家请合掌。
So please put your palms together as we read the Sutra text.
好，我们大家一起念，节省时间。好，在116页的第2行，因为我们前面2行上一次我们已经有念过了，也讲过了。那我们今天从第3行一直念到这个自无疲倦，就是一直下来到中间的部分。
So we're on the third line on page 116. We'll read all the way to the bottom of the first paragraph.
好，我们大家一起呢。如今是鸟，微服外道故，如众有形，无所障疾故，犹如牛王，无能胜故，犹如象王，三条伏故，如狮子王，无所畏故，况如虚空，大慈等故，摧灭寂心，不忘胜故，专乐求法，心无厌足，常欲广说，自无疲倦。好，英文在117。
Page 117. They are like the golden winged Garuda, because their awe-inspiring presence tames those outside the path. They are like a flock of migratory birds, because they do not accumulate anything. They are like the king of bulls, because they cannot be defeated. They are like the elephant king, because they are gentle and tame. They are like the lion king, because they are fearless. They are vast like space, because their great kindness extends equally to all. They have wiped away jealousy, because they do not envy those who surpass them. They joyfully focus on seeking the Dharma, and are not bored or weary in their learning. They constantly wish to teach, and do not feel any fatigue while doing so.
好，我们稍微来解释就是很浅显的来解释这个经文的，然后呢，我们再来有一些就是经典上的故事，我们来应用来跟大家说法。
Okay, so now we'll go over the sutra text and also share some Dharma stories with everyone.
好像这个第3行这个开始，他讲像这个金翅鸟它微服外道故这个金翅鸟就是翅膀很大的这个金翅鸟，它是非常有力的，它的威势它这个威势能够来调伏这个外道。
So they are like the golden ring Garuda. The Garuda are these huge birds. They have these large wingspans, and so their inspiring presence can actually tame those. Actually, the bodhisattvas are being compared to these birds, and the bodhisattva's presence can actually tame those on wrong paths.
好，第2句呢， 它又如虚空那个悠闲的这个飞鸟，虚空上的这个飞鸟呢，没有一点点的长机，就是说它都没有什么稳藏起来这样子。
So they're like a flock of migratory birds because they don't store anything. Right, the birds fly and they don't keep anything as they go from place to place.
好，第三句呢，它又像这个牛队里面的这个牛王它的这个形象呢、神色呢，都胜过其他的一切牛。
So they're like the king of bulls because 在那边他们的身体是最
形象神色，它的外表的形象
So their appearance surpasses all the other bulls, all the other cows.
像这个牛王呢，就是说当然这个是公牛公牛没有人，因为他都这个王呢，就是说没有人来胜过他，他是里面最大最好看的这个，因为其实我某些就是说本人在家里也以前也有养过好几只牛，包括公牛、母牛都有。
So these are bulls, and they're really, you could say, awesome in appearance. I myself have raised cows and bulls when I was a kid, because I grew up on a farm, so I have some experience with bulls.
好，第四句呢，它又像这个象王，这个就是大象中的这个象王，因为这个象王呢，它能够调伏其他的大象一样的。
So they're like the elephant king, because they are able to tame and all the other elephants.
当然，它这个我们经典讲佛法的，它这个就是来调伏外道，或者是调伏不听话的众生，都能够来调伏他们。
So they, for instance, if the bodhisattva is being compared here, they can subdue or tame those on wrong paths, going out seeking outside, and also living beings that are difficult to teach.
好，那另外一句呢，它就是说像这个狮子里面的这个狮子王一样，这个狮子王呢，它是无所畏惧的，这里这个我们在佛法上就是说它这个狮子呢，就是表示说法的人，佛或者菩萨呢，他说法都是没有什么惧怕的。
So they're also like the Lion King, because they are fearless. They are able to speak Dharma and are not scared of anything.
为什么他们没有畏惧呢？因为他们所说的都是善法，都是正法。
Why are they fearless? Because everything they say is a good Dharma, wholesome Dharma, and proper Dharma.
所以呢，这个下面经文在讲呢，这一些呢，他们菩萨，因为这些菩萨在这些菩萨其实都是从别的世界来的菩萨，在阿弥陀佛那里来修学，来成菩萨以后呢，当然最后就是成佛。他们这些菩萨们，他们的心胸都是非常宽大，好像虚空一样的。
So these bodhisattvas come from other lands to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land to cultivate, and it says that they're vast like space. Their hearts are vast because their kindness extends equally to all.
而且呢，他们都是具备这个大慈大悲的这个心的缘故，他们这些缘故呢，是可以来摧灭嫉妒心的这些，因为嫉妒心这个是很麻烦的，你嫉妒别人，别人就对你不好，所以这个能够摧灭这个嫉妒心的。
So having this kind of heart of kindness allows them to wipe away jealousy. This heart of jealousy is actually a big problem because when we are really jealous of other people, we create this, you can see, adversarial relationship and can often be harmed.
因为这样子呢，大慈大悲呢，他就不忘胜故了。这个不呢，可以说就是无啊，就是没有。所以呢，他们就没有什么厌亲这一些的爱憎啊，这些事情。
So they do not have any envy for those who are better than them.
所以呢，这些因为呢，这些菩萨们呢，他们是专心，然后呢来求法，都是非常快乐的，心里没有任何的这个厌见，而且都是非常满足的。
So they are very joyful in seeking the Dharma and are not bored or weary in learning it. They do not kind of feel like, oh, I learned enough. They always want to learn more.
所以呢，他们就是在极乐世界那边来学习，来求法，来说法，都是没有厌倦的。
So in the Pure Land, they go and they learn the Dharma, and they also share the Dharma, and there's no sense of tiring.
所以呢，我们今天晚上我们所讲的呢，就是都是在修学的菩萨，在无量寿佛国度啊，在那里来修学，修学以后的一个比喻啊，就比如像这个大牛啊，或者是鸟啊、狮子啊这些的，这个都是一个比喻，因为这个都是来比喻这些菩萨的修行成果。
So these are all analogies of these bodhisattvas in the Pure Land about their kind of results of their cultivation.
像这个我们讲第一个，它这个金翅鸟，好像金翅鸟能够来微服外道这一些。关于这个金翅鸟，我们仙公上人呢，在这个讲这个天龙八部的时候，他就有提到这个大鹏金翅鸟。
So these Garudas are very awe-inspiring. So Master Hua talks about this Garuda bird.
所以呢，我们今天晚上就依照这个仙公上人他讲这个大鹏金翅鸟的一些事情，因为大鹏金翅鸟它所牵连到的就是龙。
So we're going to learn a little bit about the Garuda bird or the Pung bird, and they're connected to the dragons.
好，我们这个大鹏金翅鸟究竟有多大呢？因为它是一种神鸟，就是非常大的，身体很大。你不知道它呢，你就以为一看去好像一座山一样的那么大。
So the question is, how big is the Garuda bird? I think everyone had this question, right? Well, how big is the Garuda bird? And this, and 这个鸟呢多大呢? How big? It's Jing Fosher is spreading his wings, right? That big? It says it's a spiritual bird, and it says that when you look at it, probably if you have the spiritual vision, it's the Garuda bird is as big as a mountain.
所以呢，这个它的身体很大，翅膀当然也很长。翅膀有多长呢？有330由旬那么长，这个翅膀。
So their wings are 330 yojanas in length. I believe yojana is something like, what, like 7 miles, Chinese miles or something like that?
Yeah， 它这个这个游行呢，330游行呢，这个游行有大中小啦，小的40里啦，中的60里，大的有80里。
So it's 40 Chinese miles, 60 Chinese miles, or 80 Chinese miles in if depending on the kind of yojana. I think maybe then it's in the West, then it's Chinese miles is how many per Chinese mile per 1 mile? Anybody know? I think maybe 6 to 1. Yeah, well, very big.
1 mile
Very big.
所以呢，这个游行我们以前也有讲过，它是一游行呢，就是一个牛拉着一个牛车走了1天的路这样子。
So how long is a yojana? Is how long a cow or maybe a bull can pull an ox. An ox can pull a cart, and a distance it can pull in 1 day.
这样子，好它这个大鹏金翅鸟我们知道它是很大，然后它那么大呢，力量也就特别大啦。
So I looked it up here. A yojana is about 8 miles. So you do the math. So let's say it's the large yojana, the biggest one. So if it's 8 miles, it's 10 miles. So then it's 330. So it's 3,300 miles is his wingspan. So I think the United States is probably something like 3,000 miles across, right? So it's a little bit bigger than America in wingspan. If you do the math. Somebody can check me on that, because I just did that kind of back of the envelope calculation. So, 刚才是说这个
力量很大。
That's also their size is really big, but they're also their strength is considerable as well.
也特别大，那个它这个特别大是做什么呢？它可以把这个海水把它弄到一边一散，就这个海水就变成2半了，就中间没有海水了，就这样子。
So these birds are extremely powerful, and just with their wings they can just sweep, and the oceans can actually open up so that the two sides of the ocean clear away.
所以呢，它这个它把它这个一散以后，海底都露出来了，海的这个底都露出来了。然后呢，它海底的露出来以后呢，就把所有的好像鱼虾子什么东西都露出来。然后呢，龙也在那里也被露出来了。
So when they flap their wings and cause the oceans to kind of basically part, they can see the ocean floor. Everything is just really clear. They see the fish, they see the shrimp, they see the various sea creatures, but also the dragons. Those are the dragons are said to live in the ocean. They all are there as well.
那这个龙呢，在它都是住在海底深处。它龙呢，龙它是会变化的，但是呢，它一看到这个金翅鸟呢，它什么东西都害怕，都不会变了，也不会跑了，所以呢，就在那个地方趴在那个地方动弹不得，就是等这个大鹏金翅鸟来吃。
So these dragons are usually very powerful as well, and they have many transformations. They can change shape. But when the great Garuda bird or great Pung bird flaps its wings and pulls open the ocean, these dragons are scared to death and basically lose all their spiritual abilities, and they're just kind of quivering there, scared at the bottom of the ocean, just, flat.
Yeah. 所以呢，这个龙就那里不能动，然后就大鹏金翅鸟一口就把这个龙就吃了。
So you can say these dragons are frozen frozen in fear. And so the Garuda bird just comes and eats them up.
Yeah， 所以呢，这个大鹏真翅鸟呢，它一次呢，它不只有吃一条龙啊，不是的，它这个都是要吃上好几千条，这样子的一天的这个分量。
So these Garuda birds just don't eat one dragon; they have to eat like maybe a few thousand dragons for their meal, and so that's like their daily fare.
所以呢，它至少呢每天都要吃一条大的龙，这个龙呢，大的龙就是龙王啊，然后呢，它还要再吃500条这个小龙啊，小的龙就是那些龙子龙身。
So every day they have to eat at least one really big dragon, and this is the dragon king, the king of the dragons. And then he eats 500 other kinds of dragons. So these are like the dragon kids and the dragon retinue.
所以呢，他就把这个大龙啊、龙王啊当成这个正餐啊，正餐我们吃饭有正餐，有点心的。他这个大龙呢，就是正餐的来吃，那这个500条呢，就当成点心来吃。
So the main meal, you have a many course meal, right? You have the main dish. So the main dish is the big dragon king, but then you have a lot of other side dishes. So you have all the other kinds of dragons as your side dishes.
他这个吃龙呢，就好像说我们在吃面条一样啊，面条我们是一条一条就像面条这样子吃它，然后一条龙一条龙这样子就这样子的像吃面条吞下去。
So they eat the dragons like we eat noodles. We just slurp them in, and so he just one by one slurps all these dragons in.
所以呢，他这个而且呢，他吃这个龙的时候呢，他有规矩的，他这个先吃龙的尾巴，就是说再吃龙的尾巴，然后呢，在最后一直再吞到他这个龙头这样子。
So when the Garuda bird eats these dragons, there's a appropriate etiquette. You know, they have I guess they have what do you call it? Manners. They have when you have not dinner manners. What do you call it when you have eating in a table manners? They have table manners because there's no table, but they have table manners. And so they have to first eat the tail as they slurp the dragons, and then finish with the head.
所以呢，他这个吃完了以后呢，他这个龙啊，就到肚子的这个里面呢，这个去藏起来，然后再慢慢去消化它这样子。
So these dragons get eaten and get put in their stomachs, and they're slowly digested in the pung bird's stomach.
所以呢，像这个大鹏金翅鸟，它每天都要吃那么多，至少要一条大龙，500条小龙，龙子龙身。所以呢，这样子一直吃下去呢，它就这个龙的件数呢，就一天一天的就少了。
So this pung bird eats so many dragons, you know, one king dragon and 500 other kinds of dragons. So day by day, the dragons become, you can say, become extinct. They're running out of dragons.
所以呢，一直就下去都龙就要断种，就是说快要被吃掉啦。
So these dragons are about to become extinct because they're going to get all eaten.
那这样子的这个龙王呢，他当然他看到这个他们本身的这个龙呢，就一直就这样子下去，被吃掉不是办法，将来就没有龙子龙孙呢，就这样子就要断了，所以要怎么办呢？他这个龙王就非常的恐怖。
So the Dragon King could see that this was not a good situation. They're about to go extinct, and all the various dragons and all the dragon citizens are all getting eaten. And so this is not a good situation. What do we do?
所以呢，当然他也去找其他的朋友来一起来对付这个大鹏金翅鸟。可是呢，这个大鹏金翅鸟这个力量太大呢，所以都没有办法，大家都束手，就大家都没有办法来帮助这个龙。
So he went and tried to find other dragons to help work together to try to counteract this huge pung bird. You may say fight back, but the pung bird's power was just too great, and so they weren't able to repel the pung bird.
他忽然有一天呢，这个龙王啊，他想到释迦牟尼佛，释迦牟尼佛他是最慈悲的，他就去请教这个释迦牟尼佛。
So one day he went to thought of, oh wait, there's the Buddha Shakyamuni, and he's extremely caring and compassionate. He must have a solution for us. Maybe I should go and ask him for help.
所以呢，他就来到释迦牟尼佛那里，来请法，请他释迦牟尼佛来救他。
So he went over to pay his respects to the Buddha and request the Dharma and ask for help. So can you please save us from this disaster?
那释迦牟尼佛就问这个龙王啊，你说你有什么灾难啊？那他这个龙王就说啊，他现在是最因为被大鹏金翅鸟呢吃的几乎都快要断种了。
So the Buddha asked him, so what disaster is befalling you? And he said, well, World Honor One, please be compassionate. The great Garuda bird is basically decimating all the dragon race. We're all getting eaten.
所以呢，他就请释迦牟尼佛慈悲来救他们，不要再给这个大鹏金翅鸟来吃他们的眷属，然后呢，请求这个佛呢来保护这个龙子龙孙、大龙小龙。
So he really asked the Buddha for help. How can you help protect us from this pung bird that's eating us? Can you please give us a way to be safe?
所以呢，释迦牟尼佛就跟这个龙王讲啊，那没有什么问题啊，好的，不要紧，你们最重要呢，你们如果能受持八关斋戒，那大鹏金翅鸟呢，它就不能够吃你们了。
So he says, no problem. The Buddha says, no problem. There is a solution for this. Don't be so anxious. If you can all keep the 8 precepts, receive and then maintain the 8 precepts, then the great prong bird, the Garuda bird, cannot come and eat you.
所以呢，这些龙王回去龙宫呢，就带领着所有的这个龙子龙孙呢，就来到这个佛的地方来受八关斋戒。
So the dragon king brought all his retinue and his children and all the dragon people, or dragon citizens, you could say, and brought them over to the Buddha to receive the 8 precepts.
他们呢受完斋戒以后呢，那佛陀就给一件龙王旧的这个袈裟，佛的旧的袈裟给龙王。
So after they all took the 8 precepts, the Buddha gave them a old precept sash of the Buddha.
所以呢，就跟龙王讲啊，你拿回去啊，把这个袈裟拆了，把它拆掉了啊，然后拆掉了，它当然有这个线呐，你就拿这个袈裟线呢，每一个龙子龙孙呢，就可以给他们一条袈裟线。
So he said, when you take it back, you can unravel it, and there'll be a lot of thread. And so you give the various dragons a piece of thread.
然后呢，把这个绞杀线把它缠在这个龙角，龙都有角的龙角上面呢。然后这个大鹏金翅鸟呢，看到它就不能够吃你们了。
So he says, then you take that thread and you tie it to the. I guess dragons have horns.
龙角
Do we have horns in our dragons here? A little bit. A little bit, not so much. But I guess imagine maybe there's horns on the dragons and they tie the string onto the horn, and then that way the Pongbird cannot eat these dragons.
所以呢，这个龙王他回去以后呢，就照着这个方法来做。从此以后呢，大鹏金翅鸟呢，它把这个海水把它删干了，露出来海底，它也看不见这个龙，什么地方也找不到这个龙了。
So this is what the dragons did, and so then when the Garuda bird, flapped its wings, and the oceans opened up, and they looked for the dragons, they couldn't see the dragons. The dragons had all disappeared. They couldn't see where the dragons were.
所以呢，这个他们知不到龙王、龙子、龙孙，他们都非常高兴呢。就这样子呢，他们就来皈依这个佛，做佛教的这个护法。所以这个就是天龙八部中的一个龙的这个佛教护法。
So after they were safe from the Garuda bird, the dragons were extremely happy, and so they all came and took refuge with the Buddha and became Dharma protectors in the Dharma.
所以呢，我们知道这个八关斋戒是非常重要，因为我们 BBM 也每年都有受八关斋戒，我们法会的时候，所以这个八关斋戒很重要。当然，八关斋戒我们知道，就是说从不杀生、不偷盗、不淫、不妄语、不酒，一直到第6，就是不要香油涂身啊，然后呢，不要做晚上啊，不要做高升大床这样子，然后做祭业观听最重要呢，第8点就是要离非时时。
So, as we know as Buddhist practitioners, the 8 precepts is very important. And at BBM, we often transmit the 8 precepts before a Dharma assembly. For instance, before an Amitabha session here at BBM, Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. So these are very important for those who maybe are not that familiar with them. The first one is not killing. Second one is not stealing. Third is no sexual activity. Fourth is no lying. Fifth is no intoxicants. Sixth is not adorning oneself with flowers or fragrant oils and decorative beads. The 7th is to not sit on high luxurious beds, and you say seats maybe. And 8th is not eating at improper times, basically not eating past noon. And so this is the 8 precepts. 你还有讲那个故事，那个鸟去问佛陀吗？其实佛陀说：“怎么没有东西吃了？”
后面
还有后面讲的。
有后面我们
Okay, so Jing Fosher has this story keeps going. So this is just if you had a TV series, this would be episode 1, right? Dragons are safe.
Yeah.
But then there'd be a trailer. The Pongbird is unhappy.
Yeah. 因为真空上人就他再继续讲，他讲了很多，他讲后面一直他这个大鹏金翅鸟他怎么死的，然后变成我们的这个摩尼族，这个故事。
Wow, I never heard that.
Yeah.
So Master Hua actually says a lot about these Pongbirds, about how they die and how they transform into a Mani jewel.
Yeah. 好，我们继续讲这个，因为这个大鹏金翅鸟它没有东西吃了，这变成说，当然它就不能够生存，所以他也是会跑去这个找原因，然后也去跑去释迦牟尼佛那里去那里，就是要怎么 来解决这个吃的问题。
So these pung birds are upset. They have no food to eat, and so they're also cannot survive. So they said, okay, we have to go to visit the Buddha Shakyamuni.
所以呢，当然像这个龙受罪以后呢，那龙生存下来了。那大鹏真翅鸟呢，它把这个海水散开来，也不能够吃龙。那这样子，它这个大鹏真翅鸟知道它这个是佛的袈裟在那里，所以他就跑去来跟释迦牟尼佛，来跟他请求。
So this hummingbird knew that the dragons had gone to the Buddha and gotten the Buddha's precept sash, and so they couldn't find them anymore. And so they thought, okay, I have to go to see the Buddha, and they went to the Buddha for help. 这个是一个鸟吗？还是很多鸟？一个鸟，对不对？
对，一个大鸟。
Just one big bird, I guess. So not all the pung birds, just one bird went to the Buddha.
他跑去释迦牟尼佛那里，就跟释迦牟尼佛讲啊，世尊啊，你救了龙啊，但是也要救我们这个大鹏金翅鸟啊，因为没有东西吃啊。
So he says to the Buddha, World Honored One, you saved these dragons, but you also need to save all of us pung birds, because we have nothing to eat.
所以呢，就是说你对这个龙慈悲，也要对我们这个大鹏真翅鸟慈悲啦。所以
you're compassionate and kind to the dragons, we also have to be kind to us.
所以呢，他释迦牟尼佛也讲啦，在我们的这个佛法里面呢，它是不能够杀生的，就是说你不能够吃这个龙的。吃龙就是杀生嘛，所以呢，因为你这个杀生以后呢，这个烟叶啊就会越来越久，就是结起来会越来越深，这样子，所以你吃它，就会结怨了。所以呢，这个烟叶不能了，所以你不能够吃龙。但是你不能吃龙呢，就是说你要吃斋呀。
So Shakyamuni Buddha told him, well, you need to not kill. In the Dharma, we have a precept against killing. Because when we kill, it creates deeper and deeper ties of hatred and resentment. And it's endless, this endless cycle of killing and hatred. So you can't continue eating the dragons, you have to become vegetarian.
那这样子，他说好啊，你是说要叫我们吃斋，那这样子，而且呢，你还要吃斋的时候，你也要受持五戒，皈依三宝这样子。
So the Buddha told him also, in addition to become vegetarian, you actually have to take refuge and the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as well as uphold the 5 precepts.
就是五戒知道，就是不杀生、不偷盗、不邪淫、不妄语、不酒，这样子呢，你能够守五戒，然后皈依三宝，那我就来吩咐我的弟子呢，就是说每天上供的时候呢，我们就送一份斋给你们吃，斋饭啊。
So you become vegetarian and you become proper Buddhist disciples, and I'll tell my own disciples, other disciples, that when it's time for the noon meal, they will take a part of the food and share it with you, type of their vegetarian meal to share with you. So they make their meal offering.
Yeah, 所以就这样子，你们自然就可以吃饱啦，就是不会饿死啦。所以呢，这个就是说，释迦牟尼佛来教导这个大鹏真翅鸟皈依三宝来做护法，它是天龙八部里面的迦楼罗。
So this is how the Buddha Shakyamuni you could say, gathered in the Garuda bird so that they took refuge, precepts, and became Dharma protectors. In the sutras, they're also being translated as Garudas.
迦勒罗，他说有时候呢，这个佛陀的这个头顶上呢，会有一只鸟在那里，那一只鸟就是大鹏金翅鸟。
So sometimes on a Buddha image, you'll see a bird above the Buddha's head, and that's the great pung bird or Garuda bird.
所以呢，那这个我们在 BBM 这边也是一样的，我们每天都要来做施食的，所以这个所有的佛教的这个寺庙里面呢，出家人呢上供的时候呢，都会拿一些米饭啊这些去外面施食，就是要送给这个大鹏金翅鸟吃的。
So here at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, we have every day we make an offering of food to the pung birds so that they have a meal to eat.
所以呢，送出去的时候呢，我们就是说要念啊，大鹏金翅鸟，旷野鬼神众，罗刹鬼子母，甘露悉充满。这个甘露啊，当然就是这个就施食的这些饭菜这样。
So when we take out the food, we have a verse that says the great Garuda bird and all those ghosts and spirits in the desolate wastelands, and also the Rakshasa mother ghost and her children. May you receive this offering, and may it be like sweet dew.
假如说真空上人讲啊，假如说你开无眼的人，就是已经有开眼的人呢，就是开发眼的，你送出去的时候呢，你就会看见大鹏金翅鸟来吃饭。
So the Buddha, Master Hua says, if you're somebody who has your spiritual vision open and you can see, then you see that when you put out the food, the pung bird comes and actually eats the food, has their lunch.
所以呢，那他们有一些人呢，看了大鹏金翅鸟来吃呢，有一些人会看成鸽子来吃，这个鸽子。
鸽子是什么？
鸽子
是 seagull or seagulls? So Master Hua says you might also think pigeons. Maybe you think that the great pung bird comes to eat it, but also people say, oh no, I see the pigeons come and eat their food.
那有的人呢看成火鸡，
Some people think it's turkeys.
还有人呢看成鹅。
Some people think it's geese. Goose.
还有人呢，看成十几层楼这个大的这个大鹏金翅鸟在那里，像大楼一样十几层那么大。
So some people see a 10-story high building that big of a pung bird.
仙公上人讲啊，为什么原因呢？有大小不同，就是看你自己的修行，你的心量有多大，大的就看到大。心量小的就看到小，他说一切都是你自己的心所现的。
He says, why? Okay, so these are people who had their spiritual eyes open when they see the pung bird. Some people see it as the size of a pigeon or a goose or a 7-story building. And Master Hua says, so why do people see the bird differently? It's because of their minds, the scope of their mind, their hearts. The bigger their heart, their mind, the bigger the bird they see. So really, everything is created from the mind alone.
好，这个是大鹏金翅鸟有得吃，然后这个大鹏金翅鸟呢，上面还有很多的故事，好像是苦啊，它有4种苦啊，还有是四生啊，四生生出来的就是什么胎生啊、四生啊这些的。还有呢，它最后的这个会老死掉，老死掉以后成什么呢？它就会变成一个金珠子，变成火珠一样的，这个火珠是不会灭的，这个 可不可以拿一个起来给大家看？可以。
Can you grab one of the pearl
Yeah.
for everyone?
Yeah. 我们
get the-
VBM 也有一个大的这个。
Wow, was that a pung bird before Jing Fosher?
以后他死掉，还有那个座，那
So
个
the
座
stand.
一起
Maybe bring one over at a time.
yeah， 先放。
So I translate. So Master Hua explained a lot about the pung bird. The 4 kinds of suffering that the pung birds experience, different kinds of birth of the pung birds, and also when they get old and when they die. When they die, they actually become a pearl.
这个是
And this pearl will not, like a fire pearl that does not, is like, and we call it, won't disintegrate, won't go bad, won't decay.
Yeah，
And
所以这
so
个
Jing Fosher has one here. We had one in the monastery.
Yeah， 所以这个是一个，我们今天不讲它这个，只是给大家看一
Wow,
下它
it's
这个。
very heavy.
它这个这个摩尼也可以讲变成摩尼珠，转人身王啊，他得到摩尼珠，他就会得到这样子。所以还有那个佛，还有一般的，他这个都变成珠子。这个大粉金翅鸟死以后啊，它就会，因为它这个烧不完的，它这个珠子在身体里面呢，它火烧不完。这个我们下一次讲这个故事。
So next time we'll tell a story about the great pung bird and how they die, and they have this pearl inside of them that is kind of cannot be burned. It cannot be incinerated. So it comes out this very kind of invincible pearl. Or also some people say it's like the Mani jewel.
好，我们下面你没有要讲。
Okay, I was thinking just to reflect on the story. I think there's a lot that we can kind of try to interpret maybe. So I think these stories are actually a lot of fun because it kind of enters the realm of, you could say imagination, but at the same time in the Buddhist tradition, this realm is actually quite real. And as Jing Fosher says, the monastic community, we actually make an offering to the pung bird every day. So it's actually part of our awareness all the time, these spiritual beings. And so I thought of a couple of things. I remember hearing the story the first time and being kind of struck by it because the Buddha's solution for the dragons is to take the precepts, which I thought was very interesting kind of solution. Sometimes you would think the solution would be to have a bigger weapon and kind of crush the enemy, right? Or you do some kind of secret plan to kind of hide out, but rather the Buddha's method for the dragons is actually to uphold the 8 precepts and to take the precept sash and put it on their bodies. To me, it's almost like that's a good reminder that you have to uphold the precepts all the time. And I think on one level, this may be going on in the spiritual realm, but I think it's interesting to kind of reflect on what can this mean in our actual life. And so this is more kind of a little bit of a creative reflection. I definitely have not read this in any text, but I think it's an interesting reflection, is that somebody told me that birds represent our thoughts. And I don't know if it's quite explained like this, but to me the dragons are kind of like energy. And so the birds actually consume our energy. Our thoughts really consume our energy. And it just kind of eats away at our kind of inner chi, inner ground of well-being. And how do we prevent that from happening so much? Is we actually uphold the 8 precepts. We actually live a life of virtue. And so our thoughts, they can actually, just suck up all our energy, basically get corralled, get put in a mold, a Dharma form, where we don't kind of leak our energy so much. So this is a kind of, for me, this is kind of an interesting reflection, that if we can really maintain the 8 precepts well, we actually are mindful of the Buddha, mindful of the Dharma, mindful of the Sangha, and we don't use our energies in ways that actually go outside. And then in the story, I think it's also interesting is that, for one, there's no violence, and there's no kind of like bad guy, good guy. And in most of our often mythologies in the West, you look at the Greek mythologies, there's a lot of violence. Gods go to war. Gods eat other gods. It's like a pretty bloody reality. And you don't usually have kind of everyone learning the precepts and getting along, That doesn't quite happen. So it's interesting here that the birds aren't seen as the enemy, for one, and it's the us and them that actually just say, okay, so you're getting eaten by these birds, which is part of their natural way of being. So I'm going to give you a way to protect yourself. But I'm not going to make those birds wrong or evil. And after you care for and protect the dragons, or you can say our energy, then the problem is the birds, they also are unhappy. Wait a moment, we can't feed ourselves. We can't survive. So they go to the Buddha too. And the Buddha could be what? Could be our wisdom, right? Our wisdom. So the birds come and ask the Buddha for support, and the Buddha also supports them. Said, okay, I have a solution for you as well, which, interesting enough, in this story, I don't think I heard that before. I thought the Buddha just said, I'm going to have my disciples offer food. But Jing Fosher said that the Pongbirds were actually told to take refuge and also uphold the 5 precepts. So the Buddha also had them uphold the 5 precepts. And by doing that, they entered the Dharma field. The field of, you okay there, Jing Fosher? Shaoxing? Give it to them. That they entered this Dharma field where now they can be fed by the offerings of the monastics, the monastic disciple community, and receive the offerings that are given to the Triple Jewel, which I think is actually also a very interesting reflection. So in this little analogy that I gave, of course, I'm welcome you to be creative as well. You can think about maybe what are the other potential meanings of this kind of story, these kind of ancient mythological stories that have, I think, layers and layers of symbolism. So our thoughts, we're no longer fed by the energies that were in the past because we're now holding the precepts, but they still want to be fed. They're feeling a little bit neglected. And so rather than crushing, right, the Buddha doesn't then say, okay, sorry, you guys are birds that are eating dragons and kind of maybe carnivorous. I'll say, no, actually I'll teach you to uphold the precepts and become vegetarian. And so he says, well, I don't know what I'm going to eat, so don't worry, I'll have food for you. And so they get to partake in the Dharma field, the offerings every day. And I think that's some way we can think about for ourselves, is that our thoughts, our kind of activities of our mind and hearts actually then are being fed by the Dharma, rather than being fed by kind of affliction, being fed by just our habitual patterns that sucks away all our energy in this kind of fighting, bird eats dragon afraid, this whole kind of drama, where everything becomes precepted, everything becomes kind and compassionate, and things begin to work out. So I don't think I've ever read that kind of interpretation before, but I just kind of reflect for myself. I think it's actually interesting just to see how these mythologies perhaps have deeper meanings, and some of the stories and principles that get shared within them that are in different cultures. So I think if you go to the mythology in other cultures, in other sometimes religions and traditions, it's kind of different. You know, one group goes out and destroys another group, or one being, spiritual being, goes out and tricks another group, gets advantage of another group. I mean, you can find so many stories. I'm trying to think of one that I can come up with from the West. I mean, there's of course the stories of the Greek gods fighting the Titans. Interesting enough, that's also in Buddhist cosmology. There's stories of Zeus going out and doing a lot of unskillful actions with other beings. I won't go into detail. But if you just pick up the Greek mythology book and you'll see, wow, there's a lot of pretty dramatic stuff happening. And my sense is if you were just these dramatic things could be happening, but if you actually turned it a little bit and said, what if the Buddha, they actually went to the Buddha for advice? How would they teach them? I think it's actually an interesting reflection and something good for us as well as cultivators. 所以讲这个故事，我简单的翻译，我想是蛮有意思的，因为我想很多故事，你看我们特别西方，不是这样子这么和和平平的来处理，反正很多会打仗啊，一个人在吃另外一个众生，可能要把那个众生杀掉，还是给他骗，还是怎么样？但是他们都去佛陀去请教，佛陀的答案不是说我给你一个更大的武器，你给他们都杀了，他是说我给你守戒，好好持戒，你就会有保护。然后觉得他把那个绳子绑在他们的这个头上呢，有什么用处呢？让他们记得要持戒。像我们那个上人，他要我们常常穿袈裟，对不对？我想他想想我们穿袈裟，是因为我记得我们是守戒的，我们是要持戒的。所以我想他们就是这些龙呢，就知道我要守戒。他们守戒呢，就不会被这些鸟吃掉了，所以他们就有保护。然后就这个是有一点自己的去想一想，但是有个人告诉我过，这些鸟，一个鸟的一个代表是什么？代表是我们的念头。然后我不知道，但是我觉得这个龙呢，可能是我们的精神。从一个可能另外一个角度来看，所以我们常常我们的念头会把我们的精神都耗掉了。特别是如果我们是没有守戒，我们就是常常想不正常的事情，吵吵闹闹的事情。所以如果我们好好守戒呢，我们的精神就被保护了，不会被浪费掉。但是佛陀对关于这些鸟呢，没有看他们不好，反而这些鸟也有问题的时候，他们说我们没有东西吃，来佛陀这边的时候，佛陀也给他们那个方式，说你没有东西吃，我要你们吃斋，皈依，受五戒，好好修行。我有他们从一个世间的怎么说范围呢，到一个佛法的范围，他们进入这个佛法的这个环境了。所以他们怎么呢？他们吃的东西就变成是法了，是每一个人供养三宝的食物，他们吃一点。Like for instance, those staying in the monastery now, we get the chance to all eat food that's offered to the Buddha, to the Dharma and the Sangha, and then is then shared with all of us, including those living at the monastery. And so we get to partake in the Dharma food, like these Garuda birds. So 这些鸟呢，我们又不是给说吃我们的精神呢，我们是怎么样呢？我们是来用佛法呢当我们的食物，我们来用佛法来给我们这个阴阳呢跟精神。所以觉得这个故事是非常有意思。如果我们想一想，说我们想要把我们的这个生命呢，真正要正常走一个善的道呢，我们好好持戒呢，好好把我们念头守住呢，然后真正的来可以说吃佛法，把佛法当我们真正的为师，不是把烦恼当我们的为师。所以我想这个是 可能一个想法。我们出家人呢，我觉得是说这个是可以说像一个很遥远的故事一样，但是我们出家人每天都是供给大慈金翅鸟，所以常常在我们的心中知道，有这个鸟，我们要供给他，尊重的供给他吃，所以恭敬的供给他吃，所以这个可以说像一个谣言一样，但是也可能是真的，谁知道？Yeah.
OK， 好，我们再来讲一个故事，因为时间也不是太多，我们讲一个这个故事以前也好像我们有提过，他就是说那个天上的这个天地啊，就是天宫啊，他跟这个第七梵天王的两个相继呢，常常相继，他们都会那个梵天王来忉利天就是第4天，就是忉利天王就是那个嘛Sakura，他们会在一起来相聚。
So this story is about the heavens. So Lord Chakra, king of the gods, who lives in Tramshimsha heaven, often meets with the Brahma, Lord Brahma, who's in the Brahma heaven. So there's a meeting of gods.
那有一天就是这个梵天王啊，他们在一起下来这个第10天的时候，忉利天的时候，他看到这个地就是 Sakura 不高兴，就是闷闷不乐。那梵天王问他什么原因呢？你没有快乐这样子。
So one day, Lord Brahma came down to Tramshimsha heaven, saw that Lord Chakra was not happy. He said, "Why are you unhappy?"
他说因为我现在看到我们天上的人呢，目前呢，越来越少，因为呢，就是说，这个娑婆世界的众生呢，他们都不再做善，都是，所以你不为善的话，你就不能够升天上这样子。
So Lord Chakra said, "Well, I'm looking at the human realm, and people are not acting in wholesome ways. So to be able to be reborn in the heavens, you have to act in wholesome ways." So the population of his heaven was dropping.
所以呢，我就是这个愁恼的原因，我就是这样子，我在忧愁。那这个梵天王就跟他说呢，这样子啦，我们2个都去这个娑婆世界啦，你呀，叫 Sakura， 你就把它变成一个狮子啦，然后我变成一个婆罗门人。
So Lord Brahma heard this from Lord Chakra about how worried he was about the heavens being depopulated. He said, "Okay, I have a method. So let's transform ourselves into the human realm, into the kind of Saha world, you could say. And there you come as一个什么？他 Chakra come as a
Chakra 变成一个狮子
lion, right? Lion. So you transform yourself into a lion, and I'll transform myself into a Brahmin.
Brahmin. 所以呢，他们就2个就来到圆湖体，就是我们这个娑婆世界呢。然后呢，他们开始教导人来做善事，然后呢，做善呢可以升天啊，这样子。所以呢，他们这个就来到一个国家，这个Brahma 他就变成狮子呢，就在这个国家的这个城门的时候呢，就跟大家讲，我要吃人啦。
这个狮子 Okay, so they came down to teach people to be good. And so Lord Chakra was a lion and the Lord Brahma was a Brahmin. And so they came to the gate of a country, and so the Lord Chakra, who was a lion, was at the front gate, and said when people were coming through, "I'm a man-eating lion."
所以呢，那这个国家的人呢，看到这样子都非常的恐怖啊，然后来跟他叩头啊，但是这个lion也不气，他是说我要吃人啊。
So these people were frightened to death, and so they started being scared, and they actually bowed to the lion, hoping they wouldn't eat them. The lion says, "Oh, I want to eat people."
所以呢，而且这时候婆罗门呢，也跟他们的这个国王讲啊，你要送给他30个人，30个人死人给他吃。
So the Brahmin told the king of the country, "You have to send 30 people to get eaten by the lion."
所以呢，这个国王也就去找了这个在监狱里面的这个死人啊、死囚啊，就是要判死刑的人，30个人就交给这个狮子来。
So the king went and got 30 people, criminals who had been sentenced to death, and gave them to the lion.
所以呢，这个狮子呢，就把他们呢就带到深山里面去。
So this lion brought them into the depth of the mountains.
所以呢，这个狮子就跟他们讲啊，就狮子也变成一个人啊，跟他讲啊，说你们呢能够守5戒，然后又来修行10善的话呢，那我们这个狮子我们就不吃你啦。
So this lion transformed to a person and told them, "If you can uphold the 5 precepts and do the 10 good deeds, then the lion will not eat you."
所以呢，那这个当然这些死囚呢，就听话啦，然后就真的来受5戒10善啦，这样子。
So these people were frightened and really listened to the instruction, and so they all took the 5 precepts and cultivated 10 good deeds.
所以就这个狮子就跟他们讲啊，你们可以去啦，你们不持5戒10善的话，我就来吃你们。
So he said, "Okay, you can go now, but remember, if you don't hold the 5 precepts and cultivate the 10 good deeds, I'm going to come and eat you."
所以呢，这个3、4个人呢，就回到他们的国家。那他们的国家一看哦，非常的惊奇。他说：“你们怎么回来了？”
So these 30 people came back to their country, and the people were surprised. "Oh, how did you get back here?"
他说啊，那时候呢，我们去深山里面呢，有一个人呢来叫我们要守5戒10善，这样子呢，狮子就不会来吃我们。
So they said, we got into the mountains depths. Some person appeared and told us if we took the 5 precepts and practiced the 10 good deeds, we wouldn't be eaten by the lion.
所以呢，我们答应来这样子做，所以我们可以回来这样子。
So we promised that we would follow these instructions, so then we were allowed to come back.
后来呢，这个狮子呢，又去在这个城门那边，就是他第一次去那个城门，那国家的人呢，也大家都非常的这个害怕恐怖。
So now the lion went back to the city gate, and all the people around were still really afraid.
所以呢，他们这个国家的人呢，也都是跟从这个30个人的做法一样，来受5戒10善，这样来做10善。
So all the people were following in the footsteps of the 30 people who had initially been sentenced to death, that they took the 5 precepts and cultivated 10 good deeds.
所以呢，后来这个这样子，这个国家的人他们都受了这个 来为善啦。那狮子呢就知道说这样子可以啦，他就到另外一个国家去。
So all the people of this country took the 5 precepts and practiced the 10 good deeds. And so the lion saw this and he went to another country.
所以呢，他们这样子一个国家一个国家去度这些，他总共呢度了8万多个国家。
So they went from country to country doing this, and in total, the lion and the Brahmins went to 80,000 countries.
所以呢，都这些人度了以后呢，他们都来做善事。那死了以后呢，就升到天上啦。
So all these people did good deeds, and so when they died, they all went to the heavens.
所以呢，他们升到天上呢，当然是非常的快乐，更快乐，然后也非常的能够算一个丰盛的这个非常好的这个在那里生活。
So when they got to the heavens, of course, they had lived a very peaceful and happy existence, and you could say very much enjoyed themselves.
他这个经典在讲啊，这个我们菩萨呢，方便来度人家，也是这样子，那一直就可以度到他们来做佛成佛这样子。
So the sutras also say how the bodhisattvas are like this. They come into this world to teach living beings in order for them to become Buddhas.
那这时候佛就跟阿难讲啊，阿难是他的弟子嘛，所以呢，他就说啊，这个当这个四天化狮子的这个，就是下胯化成狮子的那个就是我本人啦。
So the Buddha then told Venerable Ananda, who was, I guess the Buddha was telling the story to Venerable Ananda, and he told Ananda, actually, I was that lion in a past life.
所以呢，这个那梵天呢，他做婆罗门，他化成婆罗门呢，那就是他那时候释迦牟尼佛来世间的时候呢，他就是大迦叶了。
So he said the Brahma god at the time was actually Venerable Mahakashyapa.
也就是因为他来世间来化度天下的人呢，所以呢，使得他可以成佛。
It's because that he came into this world and he taught those people that he created the conditions in order for him to now be able to become a Buddha.
所以呢，这个故事可以说就到这里。然后呢，我想我们有一点点，还有一点点的时间呢，我想我们来介绍一下我们这个音乐方面。我们有8音啊，佛他说法有8音，那我们世间上也有8音。那我们晚上呢，我们 BBM 也集了很多的这个乐器呢，我想跟大家来做一点示范，弄一点声音。
So now the story is over. I want the Buddha has talked about the 8 different kinds of sounds in the Pure Land. We wanted to also share some more sounds of the different kind of sounds. In the Chinese culture, there's like these 8 different sounds connected with different kinds of instruments. I think Fosha wanted to share some more different instruments. I don't know if it relates to the 8 sounds or not, but I don't know if this is what they sounds like in the Pure Land. Probably a little bit better sounding, I think. It sounds like they were very beautiful.
我们 BBM 其实以前我们也有这个团队音乐团队在我们 BBM 这边。
We used to have a Chinese orchestra here at Berkeley Monastery.
Yeah. 这个像这个的话，也是我们经历他找出来的这个。
We found this.
我不知道这个是 是叫什么
I think they're symbols.
啊？
I think they're called symbols, right? I think they're called symbols.
这个
They're very loud.
这个很多乡村啊，他们做什么法事啊、喜事啊，在家里啊，他们都可以做这样。
A lot of villages, they have this kind of noise. We have more. Actually, I remember being in Taiwan, in Liugui, and outside the monastery, you could hear this nearby place, and there's all these sounds. And Dharma Master Fan, who was there, told me it's a Taoist place nearby, and they have a lot of these instruments.
这个也是他们拿来做，有时候在欢乐啊、跳舞啊，他们。
When they're dancing, or
这个也是。
It's also another instrument.
Yeah.
Amitabha.
Amitabha.
What is this instrument called? Anybody know? Tambourine.
啊，什么
Tambourine.
？Tambourine.
Tambourine.
Yeah. 这个什么？我不晓得中文
不知道。
英文 tambourine， 还有底下的。
It's another one.
这个是gong。
是 gong.
gong。还有应该有。
We have the hitter for the gong.
应该有。
The gong striker.
Yeah， 康。三更半夜小心火烛。半夜的时候啊，这个他们都敲这个，这个小心火烛就是说，晚上的时候你要小心火烛，不要把房子烧了。
是把你的火要放掉。
也是叫小偷啊，不要出来啦，不可以出来。
So he said at night they hit that and they say, be careful not to burn down your house. And telling all the thieves, don't come out. Let's tell the thieves. Isn't that a good signal for the thieves to come out?
还有这个呢，这个就是有时候我们吃饭的时候，我们都叫集众啊，大家起来，大家时间到了。大家一起来上供啊，或者吃饭啊。
Tell people to come. Yeah, it's a that's a word in fishing for sure.
这里的。
So.
还有一个也是这个我们 VBN 的宝。
This is also a BBM treasure here.
Yeah,
treasure for you to see here.
他这个
King Force is taking all these treasures for you to see.
Yeah, 你刚刚看他这个就是一个过年呐，或者过节啊，就这样子。Yeah.
So you would think that it's just a very innocent-looking little, Chinese instrument player, but little do you know that he has special abilities.
Yeah.
Look, his arm even moves.
就是。
And he doesn't just know one song; he knows actually quite a few songs.
这个还有。
Oh, see, he knows another song. There's never a dull moment at the monastery.
应该还有一个。
Yeah, there's more. Oh, you started over though, Jing Forger. To wait, let it do it themselves.
Okay. Yeah, 这个就是我们 BBM 这个宝在这里。
This is our BBM treasure here. Yeah. So you can imagine all these different musical instruments in the Pure Land sounding billion trillion times better.
其实啊，我们今天晚上的讲法，重点我们就是 佛弟子呢，最重要来修行，要来像菩萨们一样来做菩萨，来利益众生。像八关斋戒的话呢，不只是自己利益自己，而且呢，我们还可以往生去中品众生的西方极乐世界那里。
So the 8 precepts is quite important as a practice. That's something we want to emphasize today. And that if you take the 8 precepts, you also have the opportunity to be reborn in the Pure Land. You can be reborn in the Pure Land in the middle grade lotus. The middle grade lotus, which is not bad.
这个所以
Middle grade lotus.
我们法会的时候，尤其是阿弥陀法会，我们的这个 BBM 这里都站满了这个受八关斋戒的人。
Yeah, when we have our Amitabha sessions here in person, the whole room here is filled with those wanting to take the 8 precepts.
而且，
不知道你知不知道，今天早上我们也受八关斋戒。他们大家。I told Jing Forger this morning we also took the 8 precepts.
所以呢，而且我们下次我们还有 online 来做，我想也是会有非常的多的人要来受八关斋戒。那我们在跟大家宣布我们做法会的时候，所以非常难得，大家一起今天晚上可以一起来听法，我们一起来修行，一起来研究佛说无量寿经，是非常难得。好，我们今天晚上就到这里，恭祝大家平安吉祥快乐。
So encourage everyone in the future. You can take the 8 precepts online, and this concludes our Sutra lecture for this evening. Wishing everyone maybe say peace, happiness, and auspicious life.
Okay.
You have some questions.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to Google Translate. So
Okay.
Master, why are there so many vicious people in the world? Did King Yama lower the threshold for reincarnation, or is it because hell is full?
是什么？
有人问为什么地狱 Okay, 我可以去帮你 I mean, I'll read the Chinese.
Read the Chinese.
You can read Chinese?
是现在世界上恶心的人为杀这么多，是让我往把投胎做人的门槛降低了吗？还是因为地狱满了？
听得懂吗？
听懂了。他是说我们现在人为什么那么多作
恶的人，
作恶的人，然后是不是地狱
填满
了，或者门槛很低
？Says why are there so many bad people in this world now? Maybe the to become a person now the requirements is lower, or that the hells are full. How come there's so many evil people?
这样子我们读经典，我们也知道，我们现在是末法时代。
So right now we know from reading the sutras that we're in the Dharma ending age.
Yeah， 末法时代的人呢是五浊，有五个浊嘛，五浊世界，所以呢，那这个为善的，真的就刚才讲的，那个地势跟那个大梵天王，所以我想不只是我们以前也有这样子的事情发生，所以这个尤其是现在释迦牟尼佛来这边成佛，就是要教导我们要来做好事，不要去做坏事，所以这个是最重要的。我们要把握住。那 BBM 每天我们有中午念佛，我希望说大家要想到我们能够有这个机会来念佛，我们心里念佛，就心里面就是有阿弥陀佛在，所以呢，我们将来都可以去阿弥陀佛那里莲花化身，所以这个大家要把握住这个时段。
So we know that our world is the world of five turbidities, a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering. And Shakyamuni Buddha came to teach us the Dharma, to help us get free. So every day at BBM we recite the Buddha's name at 12:30, and it's a good way to cultivate and purify our hearts and minds. And you could say it's very good way so that it's a very rare opportunity to be able to recite the Buddha's name together. So we want to really cherish the opportunity.
刚才也讲他这是不是那个门槛低呢？其实阿弥陀佛的门槛再更低的，所以呢，这个我们要来常常念南无阿弥陀佛圣号。
Somebody asked, is we could say the requirements for becoming a human just got lower? And then Jim Force said, actually, Amitabha Buddha's requirements is even lower. Just recite his name, and you get reborn in the Pure Land.
好，我想这样子。
Okay, so that's okay.
好
Sounds good. So make sure you recite the Buddha's name. I think that's the conclusion. And if there's people who are evil, Amitabha.
OK， 好，我们来做。
Okay, that's your dedication to merit.
Yeah， 好，大家请合掌啦。
Please put your palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all those sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so that concludes our lecture tonight. Hope you join us next week. Amitabha.
下礼拜四，大家不见不散，阿弥陀佛。
Okay, Amitabha.